this year's Bill Russell MVP, Andre Iguodala.
Andre Iguodala, a four-time NBA champion with the Golden State Warriors.
Iguodala throws and drives and drops a sledgehammer.
An all-star.
Gaines dribbling off his foot. Iguodala, good defense, gets it back, drives inside.
I'm just so accustomed to looking forward. What's next? What's after that? What's another goal?
The average length of an NBA career is just under 5 years. Andre played for 19.
Iguodala on the follow.
Because of your role, folks want you to come back as a coach. I mean, what scenario? I'm not going to ask you if you're going to do it. You've answered that. What scenario would make you say, maybe? Now, Andre's here to talk about his next. For you to say that you really want to be present in this moment, especially as a Black father, what does being present right now mean to you? Welcome to the Next Best Thing podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Cline-Thomas. Now, I'm here to help you strategically navigate all of your career and life transitions. And as we like to say around here, a pivot and a plan B, they're not required. Now, today we are certainly in for a treat. No, most of us will never know what it's like to go to work and have 18,000 people or more cheering for us, or have millions more watching on television. But chances are, if you're watching or listening to this, that you have had a dream that you've sacrificed for, worked so hard for. And the question today is, what happens when you make those dreams a reality? Then realize it's time for a new one. That's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we dive in, if you could please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Not only will it ensure that you never miss another episode, but it will help get this great content in front of more people. Now, I spoke to Andre just days after he announced his retirement from the NBA. Here is our conversation. Okay, Andre, I'm so happy to have you here, especially during such a special time. So I really appreciate it. No,
I'm just, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you. We like family, and,
yes,
just I've having some really good conversations lately too. And I had a really fun conversation with a Hall of Fame ball player, and he was really giving me life in terms of it's bigger than just a message as well. So just happy to share with, the world what's going on and how I can be inspiring.
Yeah, and let's start there, because that was my first question is, what has the inbound been for you? What have people been saying to you since your announcement?
Yeah, it's been a lot of love, a lot of appreciation for what I may have meant to them. And while you're in those moments, you don't realize that. And so what I've tried to do is be present with it all. I'm just so accustomed to looking forward. What's next? What's after that? What's another goal? That I haven't had the opportunity to just sit back and enjoy it all, live in the present, get all those feelings, to look back and reminisce on everything that I've accomplished, and still, be able to say that was a beautiful thing. And I can still be looking ahead, but also appreciating and, understanding the blessings that I've had with my basketball career.
Yeah. Did anybody, what response surprised you the most?
A lot of former teammates and even opponents, guys that I've competed against, who just had a high level of respect for me and the way I did it. And it wasn't something I was setting out to act upon, like I want to do this or I'm going to try to act like this. I was really just trying to be myself. I was trying to be the consummate pro, showing up early, putting in extra work, staying late, listening to veterans, giving back to the young guys, always being focused. You want your teammates to be able to rely on you, and you want to be able to rely on them at the same time. And just anything that I've learned throughout the course of my career, whether good or bad, passing that on to the next crop and just doing my duty as a professional athlete and giving back to the sport that has given me so much.
I've read, just in preparation for this, I read all the comments, watched all the videos, and, I saw that the majority owner of the Warriors, he said, we look forward to raising number 9 to the rafters in the Chase Center at some point in the future. And I really wanted to know, how does that feel? Not as like the champ, the 4-time champ, the venture capitalist, but that kid from Springfield, Illinois. What would he have said about this?
He'd probably be in tears. I was very energetic. I really love basketball. Those great moments, those great wins. I got a little teary-eyed. I cried when I lost, and then when I really executed or I reached a high bar at a young age, I was really giddy. And so it was such a dream that it didn't seem like it was something that could be real.
Right.
And so for those words to be spoken, I don't think it will hit me until it actually happens, because, as you spoke to it, just have so many things going on right now, just trying to conquer the world as we do too often.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's feeling like it's feasible. And so that's the one part that I'm trying to figure out the correct balance, where I'm just so far ahead. Sometimes I have to settle down and just recognize all the accomplishments, everything that's happened along the way, and sometimes just sit back and smile.
Yeah, no, and that's what I want you to do, right? Like, I want you to accept your flowers, because you're in the 0.000001, I went to school with guys who went to the league, but they didn't play for very long, but getting there was still very much of an accomplishment. And then getting there and then winning championships and then winning an MVP, you know what I mean? Like, you just became part of this speck, of people. It's a small circle of people. So yeah, I think it's really important for you to sit and just let that, soak in, and just really what you've done. And one of the things that stuck out to me when reading all the comments, is that everybody, whether it was a fan or whether it was your teammates and your coach, really talking about your leadership. And that just really, really stood out. Steve Kerr said,
he's one of the main reasons we've got those 4 banners hanging up. He was, foundational piece of, what has been one of the great runs in NBA history. In many ways, Andre set the tone for the whole thing by agreeing to come off the bench in 2014-15. Really sacrificing and making the move that unlocked the team, that allowed Harrison to thrive, that strengthened our bench, but also set a tone for unselfishness and team first mentality.
Talk about how you reconciled that, being the 6th man, which was the name of your book as well, being the 6th man, and doing that and understanding what your role was and how to play it well with humility and understanding that it was really, really helping the team out.
Exactly that. But it was very hard. I'll be quite honest about that. It's such a huge adjustment within the basketball culture that you really have to buy in and believe. I mean, 100%. 99% isn't enough. And I was speaking on this very recently, speaking to a body of students at an Ivy League school. They were asking me about that situation and what does it mean to sacrifice, the discipline behind sacrificing. And my response of sometimes less is more. Less is for the greater good. And the culture we're in as basketball players, you're paid based on your production on paper.
On paper, very much
and
so.
Sometimes production can't be seen by the naked eye. And it could be detrimental towards your true value, whether it's on a team or in the NBA or to other teams. And it's that conversation you're having which is more important to you? And the great thing about Steve Kerr was we went to the same university and we played under the same basketball coach. So I always used to say we had the same sensei who was teaching us the game of basketball. And so we speak it in the same way. We see it in the same manner. And it was very easy for me to understand what he was trying to do. Had it been anyone else, I'm not sure if I would have bought in the same way that I did 2014, 2015. And I was playing at a really high level, and I'm in year 11. Average years of service for the NBA now is 3.5. And so I'm looking at the end, and you start coming off the bench, you go further and further down. Now, it's looking like you can see the end of your career. And so it can be hard for some folks to accept that and see a bigger picture. And so that whole season, I just took that whole year to try to be comfortable in the role. And we were winning, which made it a lot easier to accept it as well. Right. Now, if we were losing, it would be a different situation as well. But we have a great team. The nights that I was really helping the team win, but on the stat sheet where it's visible of my production, it wasn't giving the same message as our coach was able to see. And so I'm just really happy I was playing for someone like Steve Kerr, who saw my value, although it wasn't showing up on the stat sheet where most people would call the money sheet. And he kept giving me really good feedback in terms of how I was playing. And so I just kept buying. But at the same time, I was hard on myself and I was working overtime, trying to do more. Although he's telling me I'm doing well, I'm like, it's not enough. I got to do more. So it would be many nights after a game, I would drive over to our practice facility, go right back to the gym and keep working. And the message I had to the students was less is more, and sacrificing may never be seen by others until it needs to be seen. And usually it's seen in the most important and valuable time of your career, of your business, of your sport. And that's exactly what happened in the NBA Finals. The sacrificing finally paid off because the game is played in its true essence in the NBA Finals. So the ball is always going to be where it's supposed to be, and that's where I excel as a basketball player. I shoot when I'm supposed to shoot. I pass when I'm supposed to pass. I rebound when I'm supposed to rebound. And when it's played at its highest level in its purest form, that's where I feel like I excelled. I had a lot of success on the Olympic teams too, whether it was the World Championships or it was the Olympic Games in London. I spent a lot of time on the court with Coach K just doing those little things. So it all just came to fruition, and it worked out the way it was supposed to work out because I had that blind faith that, it was my purpose to come off the bench.
I think that you, in that answer, really taught a lot, not just for like the individual. I'm thinking of it in like a more traditional work setting, like the employee, but also especially for leaders and, for managers, and understanding who you have and making sure that everybody is in the right role for the common good, but also validating everybody else's work kind of in the process. Because not everybody can put up 50 a night, right? That's just not going to happen. But everybody is very, very important. I think the way that you've played really shows that. So let me just ask you this question. I know you've been asked already, but because of your role, folks want you to come back as a coach. I mean, what scenario, I'm not going to ask you if you're going to do it. You've answered that. What scenario would make you say, maybe? I know you're really busy now, but.
I think having a stake in it is something you can have a different approach when you have a real stake to it. And you speak about folks that own their own businesses versus folks who are just either contract employees or they're just a 9-to-5 employee. You own your own media company, and you own your own content, and so you treat it in a different manner. And not that I would ever not give something my all, but I know how hard it is to excel at that level, at that position, because I've seen what success looks like. The
From a
time
coaching standpoint.
Yes, the time I spent with the Miami Heat is like, I'm so happy that I was able to go through that, because I know how much work it takes to build the right environment, to have consistent success. And we all define success differently. But for me, success is maximizing your potential. So every year, Miami is competing at a very high level, regardless of the names that are on that roster. And that speaks volumes to their culture, their front office, their management, and their coaching staff. And so I've also seen it done very well here with the Golden State Warriors, where I spent, the majority of my, successful years, quote unquote. And I've saw from a high end, looking at Joe Lacob, looking at Peter Gruber, looking at Rick Welts, looking at Bob Myers, looking at Mark Jackson, looking at Steve Kerr. I've been able to take bits and pieces from all those individuals I've just spoken their names. They've all had success in their own arenas, but also in the basketball arena. And so been able to just pull from different people and know how the right culture can be built. And you can tweak things here and there, but the foundation is the foundation. And so but that would push me over the edge, having a stake in it, having a real piece of it, feeling like I'm really a part of it. And I'm a part of a team, and it's bigger than just someone feeding me their principles, their mantra, and telling me to figure it out, make it work. I really want to feel like I'm buying in, and those that I'm partnering with trust what I'm about to do and let me go out there and be successful, and supporting that.
Yeah. So when did you start thinking about retirement? I mean, the day you leave is not the day you start thinking about it. So when did you start thinking about it? And then how did you prepare for it?
Well, it's been on my mind for quite some time. I would probably say I finished with 19 years. You go back after the year 15, you start thinking about it a little bit. The trade to Memphis, it was on my mind. Coming off that 2019 season, our whole team got beat up a little bit. We finished with, it seems like half our team in game 6 of the finals, and we still had a chance to push it to a game 7. And then as you get older, you start thinking about it. And then with the business endeavors that I've been involved with, building that on the side has got me really excited about retirement, because the further I go into it, the more I realize that I need to tackle it full time. And it gets weird when you think, oh, shoot, basketball is in my way. The thing that was the thing is in the way of the thing that's next. And so that balancing act became a little bit difficult. And so I thought it was the right time so I can focus all my efforts on the business side.
Now I'm glad. And I'm glad that you planned for it. And thankfully you pretty much stayed healthy, that it wasn't like, that you were able to do it on your terms, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about this next thing, your next best thing. You are now the co-founder of Mosaic, a $200 million early stage venture capital firm focused on fintech, healthcare, and sports companies. Diversity in all its forms is a core mission. Also, for transparency, my brother Rudolph, who is an earlier guest on this podcast, is your business partner. Tell us what this means.
Well, it's a very special moment. And, our thesis and our mission speaks to it. We want to build a more diverse tech ecosystem. And when we're investing in leading early stage tech companies, while we're leading these rounds, we can help scale these companies, and we can put our imprint on these companies. And what I mean by imprint, it's like building a basketball team, and how you serve your customer with your body of what your culture looks like can determine the customer that you're serving. And we all understand that African Americans have been underrepresented in the space, And in turn, we're not being served in the correct manner as well. But when you look at how companies are built, when you have a more diverse board, when you have a more diverse body of employees, the profit and loss sheet reflects that. The more diverse, the more profits, the more people you can serve, the more data you can collect. And so we're understanding that. And just it's a better ecosystem. It's a way better experience. And so we want to help with that experience. We want to continue to help expand the way that these companies are thinking about serving the minorities and getting them to work within the companies as well.
Yeah. So you're talking about the imprint. What is Andre's imprint on business? What are you really hoping to bring to these companies?
Well, we want to, I branded myself because that's become a thing. I try to step back from, the ego, but the brand is the brand, having success on the court and speaking on why I would coach or not coach, understanding how great cultures were built. It's the same vein, understanding, putting the right talent around each other. How do you maximize that talent? Efficiency, accountability, having honest, hard conversations with founders or CEOs, being in the boardroom, I spent time on boards before, using that experience to bring knowledge to the other companies that we're invested in or we're on the board of, sticking to the plan, the path, knowing when to pivot, knowing when to, take a loss, and then also understanding what I don't know. I think we get in trouble with that at times, not knowing what we don't know. And then that tends to spiral out of control. And then it's like being lost in the maze. You can't even retrace your steps. And so it's all been a great learning experience for me. I'm gonna continue to learn, but sticking to the principles that I'm strong in and being of value in those areas.
And you've done a really nice job of paralleling, drawing the parallel between basketball. But for you personally, what habits that made you a champion? How do you take that now into the boardroom?
It's finding a way.
Okay.
And it's much deeper than that. And so you got to know where you've been to know where you're at and where you're going. And so one thing I did was really respect the craft of basketball. And I've done all my homework there, read everything I needed to read about past great players, what made them great, all the different positions, what made a great coach. We only have but so many what you call dynasties. And what was the philosophies behind those, whether it's Red Auerbach, Phil Jackson, Pat Riley, Steve Kerr now, Eric Spoelstra with the Heat organization, Mike Krzyzewski, I played for, Coach K. All those principles that I was able to gain from them, they just use that same energy. So while I'm in the tech space, reading about the best investors, what made them a great investor. Obviously, I'm not there with experience, but try to make up for it in knowledge and understanding. I've had some skin in the game for the past 10 years with investing, and I got to, the same energy, getting my reps in there as well, being tighter with my schedule, the same discipline I put in with basketball, having the same discipline in the business space, and being able to accept criticism, when I bomb an interview or when I bomb a fireside chat, being able to go back and say, what did I miss? What did I get wrong? And making sure that I stay sharp the next time it comes up again.
Yeah. And I'm sure that, everyone is pitching you everything because, every founder should believe that their idea is great. And then I'm sure you're getting a lot of people coming to you trying to, get you to endorse their products. What do you look for in a company that makes it attractive to you? What are the elements?
Yeah, so we look for companies, obviously in the sectors we look for, you spoke to it, health tech, software, prop tech, sports media properties, fintech as well. And what we look for is the market size, addressable markets. And it has to be big enough for us to say we want to take a gamble on that space. And then from there, you look at the founder. What's his track record? What's that talent look like? What is his background? Is he a great coder? Where did he spend experience before? Has he built products before? And you got to spend a lot of time with founders to get a proper read on them. And from there you look at it a few different ways because we like crazy ideas. Sometimes you get companies who don't have a defined sector, but they may be that one company that opens up a new sector. You looked at a company called Just Mayo, was non-dairy, non-egg mayonnaise. No one ever heard of it, and now it's food tech. Now you got Impossible Foods, you got it Beyond Meat, and now you've got a flood of. You've created a new sector, and so we like crazy ideas as well. And then from there, we have a few other checklists, but market size is always important, and then we're very, very concentrated on the knowledge of the founder and what's special about that founder that we want to bet on them as well. Because a founder is probably more important than the actual idea. You get a great founder, he's never going to stop creating great companies. And you just have a serial entrepreneur that you want to stand by for the test as long as they're on earth.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Just wanted to switch gears just slightly with NIL. Young athletes are really introduced to some real money and brand partnerships earlier on. You've been great at leveraging your influence. So what would you tell them? What's the blueprint for leveraging their influence to set them up later in life, especially since they're being introduced with all these ideas, earlier on?
Yeah, the NIL it's like the wild, wild west right now. And I'm having a lot of conversations about it. I think we're all still trying to figure it out. I think the young players have the capability to make a lot of money in college, but I think they have to take a step back sometimes to see the bigger picture. And sometimes it's not about the transaction. And sometimes you don't want to oversell yourself and go through a unconventional process. No, I know a lot of athletes may not go professional, and so they got to maximize their earning potentials while in college because their college years might be their maximum earning potential years. And so it's a balance there, but you also want to be really smart about it and understanding how you're being in control of the money. You're still being a college student. You're still in your adolescent years. You're still maturing. You're still growing as a person. The day you step foot on a college campus, it should be nowhere near the person you leave that leaves that college campus. You're going to be leaps and bounds a different human being and a different perspective on life and not just how you move, how you eat, how you transact, everything that involves being a human. And so you want to plan it out for the long term as opposed to this is how much money I can make this year, or this is how much money I'm making this month and how much money I'll make the next year. I think we need to be more strategic of how we're thinking about others leveraging our names and using it to sell something.
So playing the long game.
Yeah, you definitely want to play the long game. Yeah. Now, some athletes, you got the USC quarterback, you got Paige Buckets at UConn. You got your girl from Iowa, you got your girl from LSU with basketball. They're doing some amazing things, and you want to take advantage of that. And I think they've done a phenomenal job. But at the same time, and I got a great idea just popped up in my head. You can start making legacy plays with your likeness as well, and equity with your likeness as well. We can start our own companies. We can start going more direct to consumer. But the way technology is, you can touch all your fans, or you can quantify the percentage of your fan base that you could transact with the plethora of consumer products and how you go about that. And those are real legacy plays. So where the NIL goes beyond 4 years of being a college athlete.
So just to break that down, just thinking about the contracts in terms of not just while you're playing and, making moves that can last kind of in perpetuity or for a much longer time.
Yeah, these athletes can actually become business owners. Your brand is your business. And why make it a NIL, which still lands you, it's a college thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it can take you into your professional years and even after your professional years. And so there's a lot of positives there, but I think with so much uncertainty within that space, it can be limited in our thought process of how we go about doing business with it. But you'll start seeing athletes have 25, 30-year branding deals with companies or ownership within companies as opposed to just a year by year thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I think that's really great advice. Now we're talking about kids, and I want to talk to you about your own. Specifically in your retirement, you really talked about your son being taller than you, being 16 years old, and you said that you really wanted to lock in. Those are the words that you use, especially during this like crucial time in his development. And I was really thinking about that, and I find that like, and again, this is a general statement, but like men, fathers who are creating generational wealth for their families are often really given a pass when it comes to, and again, this is generalizing, when it comes to presence. And so for you to say that you really want to be present in this moment, especially as a Black father, what does being present right now mean to you?
Yeah, I spoke about this earlier and, being able to identify what you don't know. And so I'm still trying to figure that out. With so much access to so many different things and so many different places that the doors haven't been open to us in the past, and we have access to it, and we want to make the most of that access and then help others get access to it. It can take up a lot of your time or all of your time. But I think it's very important to, be a mentor, be a father, and just trying to be the best version of that I can be. With everything that's on my plate. And so just trying to map out my schedule with more intent and so that I am present, had a very good conversation with Larry Fitzgerald about it and how he balances it out. And he was speaking to wherever I am in those moments, I'm always locked in on those moments. So when I'm working, I'm locked in on working. If I'm playing golf, I'm able to lock in and play golf. When I'm with my family, I'm able to lock in with my family. It's about whatever I'm doing at that time. And when you divvy up that schedule, you're planning specific time for where you're at, and you're giving it all your energy, you're giving it all your purpose. And I'm trying to, be the best version of that.
Yeah, what are you excited about, like getting to do that you didn't have time? Like, because the season is during the school year. So like, I don't know, are you doing, I don't know if you do drop off. I don't know if he drives school. Like, do you drop off or pick up? Like, are we going to see you in the carpool line, Andre?
I was actually in the carpool line this morning.
Really? Okay.
Yes, I was. Any chance that I get to do drop offs, I try to do drop offs, even when I'm a little tired. But that's a good 20, 25 minutes, even 30 traffic some days that you're just present. You're there. Even with my baby girl, she likes to sing in the car. That's her thing. So she's like, turn it up.
Yeah.
So although I don't get a chance to talk to her, I'm taking orders and commands from her.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, the last segment I usually do it's called Act Up, and ACT, those are my initials. And it's usually about what people can do right now to get them from where they are to where they want to be. But I wanted to remix it with you and just kind of have a rapid fire, just a few questions, rapid fire. All right. First one. What's the best money practice or advice that you've received?
Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world.
There you go.
Yes, that's the easy one.
Yeah, that's the easy one. What's
it works.
It does work. It really does. What's the hardest lesson you've had to learn in this new season?
Get proper rest. Because I know how important it is, but I still fail at it sometimes. And
Really?
it usually shows up.
How does it show up?
With work. And so, like, I had a bad interview and I'm still kicking myself in the behind about it, but I didn't have the proper rest. I was traveling, jumping from here to there, coast to coast, and trying to take on too much. And, it killed me.
Yeah, that East Coast, West Coast, like flying from New York to California is brutal. It really is.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
And we talked about it a little bit earlier. The average NBA career is under 5 years. What are
Yes.
2 things that you did that helped you stay for 19 seasons?
Anything I put in my body. You hear a lot about if you got a high-end car, you don't put the cheapest gas in it. You put the best gas in it because you know that cheap gas is going to mess it up. It's the same exact thing. I always try to learn more about my body and learn more about, different nutrients, different foods. And throughout my career, it was a progression of my knowledge of food.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with my knowledge of sleep and how important rest and recovery was. So I was always on a journey of knowledge as well, in terms of how can I be at peak performance, how can I be at, how my body will never fail me or how my mind will never fail me. And by the time I left, I felt like I was a master at just in culinary in general. I knew what worked with my body, blood work, how alcohol would affect me, all those different things. Yeah, and I got to the point where I can visibly see where someone was struggling by just looking at their body. I'm like, okay, this guy, he likes to have alcohol a little bit too much, and you can see it with his definition or, how he sweats, all those different things. I kept a close eye on, and I made sure that, I would never fall victim, to anything that wouldn't allow my body to perform at the highest potential.
That's cool. Are you vegan by any chance?
I did spend some time as vegan while I was playing. I did like 2 years, I believe. But then, through blood testing and shortcomings, learned that I needed to tweak that even a little bit. And so,
Right.
My last 10 years, my diet was always adapting and changing.
Got it. That's really good. How do you measure success now?
That's a good question. I feel like I will have to come up with a new definition of success. I always say it's maximizing my potential, but what does potential look like to me now? Like, how do you quantify, how do you measure that now? When you're in a basketball court, you can measure points, rebounds, assists, steals. You can see it all on paper. And so now it's identifying, what's a lofty goal? What are goals that are within my scope? What is setting the bar too low? And so, just being in the present more so I can really key in on when there's an unlock that happens in front of me, I'm able to see it because this is a different world that I'm going to be in and maneuvering in.
Andre, you did it. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I've been in the rafters on your journey, but I'm just really, really, really proud of you. Like we all
Thank
are,
you.
the whole family is. And I just hope that you can take time and also give yourself some grace. Don't be so hard on yourself in this in this
I think
season.
this is probably why your brother and I are so close.
Right.
We're very similar in that vein.
Yes, you are very, very similar. Everything is always hard charging, but I'm telling you, don't listen to him on that. Come over to this side where you can take a moment and just pause. So,
Gotcha.
Congratulations on everything, Andre. This is really great. And again, thanks so much for chatting with me.
No, thank you for having me. And I hope this has been great for you and for your listeners.